screen.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to hear from people what they would answer to our question for this month.
There we go. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, but can you back it up a couple?
Oh, there you go.
There we go. So, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for those of you who are early arriving, let me know what I would hear from you or what you would show me if I came to your community. Christine just talked about their community festival, but I stole some pictures off of the Nebraska Passport website to get the creative juices going. So what would you want to show me or tell me if I came to your community this summer? Sharon's going to share the sculptures. I think we have 21 now, roughly 20 here in Holdridge. I think a new one up at the new ball fields just recently. Andy, I see you're joining us. Thank you. Would you want to give me a sound check?
Yep. I apologize. I got a phone call right before I was about to log on. So
That's okay. You're here now. So I chose a couple, well, actually all four pictures were personal choices that um, interest me or I've been there. So Dr. Susan LaFleche, the center, America's first Native American medical doctor, maybe first woman, Native American or just Native American in general. I don't remember, but I've been to the Market and Mill in Anselmo. That's a wonderful location to stop if you're up in the Sandhill region. And everybody loves the cranes. And we've got a new gallery over in Bertrand that I chose. So what would you tell me or show me? And you can use your microphone.
well, I will say I enjoy the cranes from the comfort of my vehicle driving by because crane viewing is a little early for me.
True. I have discovered the live feed. Is it the Audubon Center? And so if you log on early evening, you can see them coming in. I've not gotten up early enough to see them leave for the morning, but to see them come in at night is pretty spectacular. So I see we have people continuing to join us. We'll give them maybe another minute or two before we get rolling. So for those of you, what would you show me or tell me about your community if I came to visit you?
Well, Lori, this weekend is, well, we all call it Swedish Days, but it's called Midsummer Festival here in Holdridge. So if you need something to do, there's
Yeah,
all kinds of activities.
activities start tonight on the courthouse square.
Yeah.
So, and go through Saturday afternoon. So, was very Swedish, settled by Swedish immigrants. Okay. Well, I think we will get started so we can honor today's presenters and their time. So we will continue to see people join us, and that's okay. So welcome. Thank you for joining us today. This is the June 2026 HomeNE webinar, and I'm Lori Ferguson. I'm a community consultant for South Central Economic Development District. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time today, Sherry said we had 11 new registrations. So thanks for joining us. SCED, as we call ourselves, serves as the lead agent for the HomeNE statewide learning network. It's designed for all people from across Nebraska. And we come together on the third Thursday of every month, except for December, to hear housing program stories, success stories, lessons learned. And we just welcome you here today. So we hope you'll return again next month. So the purpose of HomeNE is, as I said, it's a learning network that is geared toward housing in our rural communities, and it provides all of us with face-to-face and online opportunities to foster interaction, engagement, and skill building. So I was just at a town hall meeting last night, and somebody said, shouldn't the leaders be doing this? And we really reminded them that the leaders have a role, but sometimes activity and accomplishments come from those who are passionate about the topic. And so we encourage them to move forward with what they were passionate about. And that's the same with housing in our communities. So HomeNE provides those opportunities, as well as empowers and encourages you to take what you learned today or from other past webinars and apply it. Every community is unique. And so maybe you might hear something that Brian and Andy shared today that might not be a perfect fit for your community, but it would give you an idea, and you seek to apply what you learned to your own unique situation. So thanks for being here today. Whether it's your first time, as I mentioned, I'm going to encourage you to kind of scroll down through those thumbnail pictures that you're seeing on your screen and check out the people who have joined us today. Maybe there's somebody you want to reach out directly to. We encourage that to begin to foster those opportunities to talk to each other. So thank you. So our guests today are Brian Depew and Andy McClintock for the Center for Rural Affairs. If you were on last month's webinar, we had Kelvin Izaguirre from Columbus, and he mentioned his partnership with the Center for Rural Affairs in the development of the modular program that he's got going there. Center for Rural Affairs is playing an active role in his housing development project. And so when we heard that, we thought inviting Brian and Andy to join us today would be just a perfect companion webinar to Kelvin's presentation last month. So additionally, the Center for Rural Affairs is partnering to expand the reach of the Spark Academy across the state of Nebraska. You might think Spark sounds familiar, and if you've been a longtime HomeNE participant, we had Angela Smith in February of 2025. She spoke about the Spark Development Academy. So that's a great webinar to go back and look into again. So Brian and Andy are going to be sharing all of those great things with us today. So I just want to welcome them to HomeNE and to our learning network, and thank you, both of you, for agreeing to be our presenters today. I really do appreciate you taking the time and being willing to present. So before we let you or have you begin, just feel free, Brian and Andy, to share a little bit about yourself with our participants, and then we'll get rolling, okay?
Very good. Happy to be here. Brian Depew. I'm an executive director at the Center for Rural Affairs. I've been here going on 20 years on staff, 12 years as director. I live outside of Lyons, Nebraska, in northeast Nebraska, which is where our home office is. When I'm not at work, I stay busy on my 12-acre acreage with my too big of a garden and fruit trees and some sheep. And it seems like this year about 1,000 rabbits that I think I share the 12 acres with. Yeah. So that's me. Andy?
I'm Andy McClintock. I've been at the center for just over 2 years and have spent just shy of a couple years shy of 20 years in economic development, either statewide or locally. And I currently serve as Associate Director of Lending and Housing Development.
Okay, thank you, Brian and Andy. Yeah, we've got your opening slide there, so let's get this show on the road, shall I say?
Very good. It's this delayed slide control that Sherry warned me about. Well, while we wait for the slides to catch up, just okay, now maybe they will work. The center's mission is to cultivate strong communities rooted in social and economic justice, environmental stewardship, and opportunity for all. We deploy 3 strategies to advance our mission, which is capital access, community capacity, and policy advocacy. Our discussion here today will touch on the first 2 of those, capital access and community capacity. And then the center works in 4 priority areas: small business support, food systems, environment, and community resources. And we include our housing work and our community resources work. Why did we get involved in housing and housing lending? You know, obviously responding to a community need. The center's been around for 50 years, and it's really in our DNA as an organization to constantly be assessing what are the needs, what are the evolving needs, what are the emerging needs. And this very clearly became over the last 10, 15 years that housing was something that we needed to be more engaged in. It's sort of a root issue of many challenges in small towns, as everybody that's here on this webinar well knows and well understands. And gives us an opportunity to leverage our experience in lending and technical assistance and capacity building in a new area. Small communities and small developers often struggle to launch projects. Again, very familiar to this crowd. And then our hope is to be a flexible resource, to bring flexible capital and flexible technical assistance to the field all across Greater Nebraska in order to help more projects happen in more places. We have a multi-part approach, which includes building capacity for at the local level among developers and local communities in order to deploy more housing in their communities, providing capital, engaging partnerships, and then aligned policy advocacy as well at both the state and federal level. And we will talk about mostly the first 3 here in our presentation today: capacity, capital, and partnerships. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Andy, who's going to talk about our partnership with Spark to expand the Developer Academy to Greater Nebraska. And I think some staff from Spark are on, so shout out to them as well. Oh, you're muted, Andy.
Sorry about that. I'm always worried about the UPS driver showing up and my dog's barking. So, no, I was super excited for this opportunity to work with Spark and the Developers Academy. Along with this, I teach some classes at Central Community College, including in Holdridge. And so education and outreach is really a strong core quality that I like to embrace. And so with the Developers Academy, we started talking to Spark last fall about partnering together. They have been offering the Academy since 2020. And so far have had 119 graduates. One great thing about this isn't just the Academy while they're going through it, but they continue to network those cohorts over the years and provide additional education. And so I think that it's not just a one and done, but it's a continuous networking group. We have through 6 regions, 1 Nebraska. The Northeast region was able to secure some grant funding to offer the Developers Academy in Norfolk this year, and I believe it will be in West Point next year. And what we have decided to do with Spark is that we would help continue to offer this academy outside of the Omaha area so that we are able to leverage their incredible curriculum and our staff capacity and network to be able to provide these opportunities throughout the state. Want to go to the next slide?
Coming.
So the Developer Academy is designed to assist developers, and this can be startups or existing developers with four main professional goals. And it's to provide access to training and the fundamentals of real estate development, creating networking opportunities, not just with those local community members, but other developers, because it really is a full ecosystem and we need to be able to be collaborative. And so creating those networking opportunities to create formal and informal business relationships and develop a supportive ecosystem of developers, lenders, local officials, and mentors, because really, especially in our rural communities, it takes all of them to help move these projects forward. So the Developer Academy is a week-long intensive training opportunity where we bring in a variety of professionals, architects, engineers, city staff, a bunch of different types of lenders. Just like Spark, we are a CDFI, Community Development Finance Institute, as well as traditional banks, general contractors, and other partners. And so we work through a variety of topics, from everything that you need through licenses, permits, regulations, to understanding accessing capital. We do site visits to local projects in the area to really show the full gamut of what is involved in becoming or growing a housing development business. They also work on a capstone project, which then they will present after they've graduated from the academy. And hopefully that is a springboard and a project that they might be able to bring through fruition, that we also hope that we'll be able to help participate with them in providing some capital for those projects. The next slide walks through what that week-long looks like. So I'm going to kind of pause here and you can look through this, but we try to mix it up between individual speakers and panelists, and then those site visits, and then working on your capstone, networking with the others, developers that are in the room, or sometimes we'll have partners auditing the class. And so it gives you a great opportunity to start building some strong bonds that are going to help you move your business idea forward. And we've talked about, there could be other ways this could be structured. We could do one day a week over the course of a number of weeks. This has traditionally seemed to work the best. But as we move on in the slides, I'll talk about partnering with other communities, and we would welcome feedback on what you think would be best for those in your area. And so right now, this is the model that we've been using, but we're also open to other opportunities and flexible scheduling. So why do we want to do this throughout the state? And really, we should have it offered everywhere. But in our rural communities, we see a real difficulty in them getting developers to come out and build 1 or 2 or 3 units at a time. They want to come into a community where they can do a whole subdivision. They're buying products and signing contracts with subcontractors so they can leverage their economy of scale and hopefully reduce some costs. And so it's not always the most advantageous opportunity for them to go in and do 1 or 2 homes in a community of less than 3,000 people. But we know that people want to live in rural communities. And if they're going to be there, we have to provide them a place. And we see growth in the business economy. But if we don't have places for them to live, then those businesses aren't going to be able to start or grow either. And so it's all interconnected. And so us helping create new developers that are going to start out doing 1 or 2 or 3 homes at a time in these rural communities with some flexible lending opportunities is really why we see this developer academy being necessary. We also know that there's a passion from local communities to do this work, but there's not always every partner that needs to be at the table. And one of those is the developer. And so we're helping bring them to the table, and then we're coming as well as a lender. And then there are people that may want to do this, but they don't know where to start. And sometimes that abyss of just starting a starting point is a huge hurdle for people. So this walks you through everything. You should be able to hit the ground running after the academy, rely on the speakers and the other participants and us as resource providers to then help move your projects forward. And this also, having gone through the training, should create additional confidence in you as a borrower. Even if you don't have a history of projects behind you, we know that you have understood everything it takes to go and to be a successful developer. All the things that are easier to move through, the concept, what do I want to have in my community or what do I want to build, to the more difficult pieces of accessing capital and working through permits and knowing about local and state incentives that you can capitalize on. And so knowing that you've had that education helps us feel more confident as a lender, putting funds into these projects. And then we are looking for communities that want to help partner in offering a developers academy. Ideally, I think we offer a couple a year throughout the state. And so what would happen if you wanted to be a host community? Well, I would help coordinate on behalf of CFRA. Angela from Spark is going to be, I was going to say partner in crime, but when your boss is on the webinar, that might not be the best phrase. She's gonna be my colleague in helping make sure that these continue to be successful. And so we would ask you to help recruit a 5 to 10 person local advisory committee. As a local leader, economic developer in your area, you're going to know those key individuals that should be at that table that then can help identify other key individuals that could be speakers or panelists. We'd ask you to help coordinate lining up those individuals to be speakers and panelists, identifying projects in the area that we might not be involved in, but would be a great opportunity to be on site and see what's happening, and have some boots on the ground. Then we would hope to have anywhere from 10 to 20 local participants that would like to either understand the development process, so maybe not a developer themselves, but they will be from the city and they will help advocate for these projects, or the actual individuals that want to be developers. And so we're excited in Norfolk. We closed registrations last week, and we have 16 people registered for our first Developers Academy in that area. We would also ask for assistance in helping locate and secure a facility, possible local sponsorships, food, transportation. Traditionally, Spark has offered scholarships for participants. I think that's something that we continue with our model is we collaborate in offering these. And then if people are driving far enough that lodging is necessary, and booking some of those rooms. Obviously, as a coordinator, I do some of that work, but you will all know the best options and opportunities for us to capitalize on. So we use your wisdom from your community and building these strong programs. And then my contact information is at the end of the presentation, but reach out to me. And our initial contact might not result in a developer in 6 months or academy in 6 months. It might be in 2 years because we need to build up to that point. Or you might already have all those people in mind, and maybe you end up being our first academy outside of Omaha in the Northeast region. And so I'd like to be able to bring some of that out into more central or western Nebraska. I'm located in Elwood, so just west of Holdridge. And then we have other staff throughout the state that I work with in a variety of capacities. And so we want to make sure that we are covering the entire state in our housing development programming.
Thanks, Andy. So that's a portion of our capacity building efforts. And now I'm going to talk about our access to capital and our lending to support housing. Just a little bit about our focus. Our goal is to be mostly in the construction, rehab, and mini perm space. Loans up to around 24 months, maximum loan size of about $3 million, and then flexible capital for a variety of housing types. You'll see that as a theme as we go through these slides, but you all as housing professionals deal with a myriad of capital sources that come with all kinds of requirements. And our goal is to bring private, philanthropic, and private bank capital into the deals to help make them advance without bringing additional requirements in. So that means a variety of different types of approaches, both affordable and workforce housing, both work with nonprofit developers, for-profit developers, established developers, emerging developers, and for sale units, for rent units, rehab, new construction, that whole gamut. Sherry, the slides are very slow. I don't know if you can make them go, if you can control them. So just going over a little bit of our track record, Center started doing lending and housing in 2024. And since then, we've lent $7.3 million into different housing projects, 9 projects in 8 communities, leveraged an additional $9 million from other capital sources, and financed so far 62 units of housing, but we're just getting started. Can you give me next slide, Sherry? I'm going to give you an example. Oh, it's much better. We're going to give you an example of some of our projects just to get you thinking about the variety of things that we're interested in being involved in. This was one of our first ones in Grand Island, 2 5-plex rental buildings, so 10 units of rental housing, a partnership between for-profit entities and a nonprofit entities and a for-profit developer, focus on new immigrant renters. We financed this with a construction to mini perm loan, and all of the units are done and they are fully rented up, and the loan is about ready to pay off, and that capital will be ready to recycle into another project. Next slide, Sherry. Columbus, Lori mentioned up top that this project was the feature on last month's webinar. And here we were part of a larger capital stack. It was developed by NeighborWorks Northeast, and you saw better pictures last month because these units are actually now complete and on the market. And I think maybe the first one is close to being sold, I heard. 15 units, manufactured housing, one of the first significant manufactured housing projects in Columbus. And then to sort of all the way to the other end of the possible ranges of things that we're interested in Lyons and actually in neighboring Decatur, we financed a local contractor who's building up a business around purchase, rehab, resale, or sometimes he holds the units for rent. And he is buying extremely dilapidated homes in these very small communities, 800 people in Lyons, 500 or 600 in Decatur, purchasing houses that he purchases for $20,000 or $30,000 that most people would probably think needs to be raised, knocked down, and doing really quality, deep rehab and resale or for rent work. Would love to see more contractors interested in this type of work, and we would love to be part of the capital to make more projects like this happen. We all know, especially in our small communities, there's a lot of opportunity for rehab of existing housing stock in addition to new construction. With that, next slide, and I'm going to bounce it to Andy to talk about some of the loans that she's led on.
Yeah, this was an exciting project that came to us through South Central Economic Development District. So they had assisted a startup developer in writing a Nebraska Affordable Housing Trust Fund grant to rehab this historic building in downtown Minden. And so the grant funds were to create 5 apartment units in the second floor. And while he did that, he also was developing the first floor. He's brought in a tap house. There was a brewery in Kearney that had one of the founders that was originally from Minden. And that went on one side of the downstairs, which then helped generate some revenue for the overall project as well. And then the reason we came in is because the Nebraska Affordable Housing Trust Fund grant program was a reimbursement basis for disbursement. And so he needed some upfront working capital to be able to spend, then to submit for reimbursement, and then to recycle through the full amount of the grant. And so we did that. This project completed kind of mid-spring, and they're renting those units out. He will keep those for at least 10 years. And we were able to help someone that he had done demo before with his demo company, but had never built. And so as a new developer, we are able to kind of take a little additional risk on a startup business to create 5 units in a smaller community in a building that really needed it and had not been redeveloped, probably would have been removed. And that would have been extremely sad for that community. And so it brought in housing as well as retail space. And so this is a great use of another program that then also pairs with our lending capital because we can be part or we can be the majority of a project. And there are times that we will take first position. There are times that we will take second position or potentially utilize other collateral. And so we keep using the word flexible, but that's truly, I think, what we aim to be in this space. Then we have our Rural Workforce Housing Fund projects. And so last year we applied to do some rural workforce housing projects, and we were awarded funds from the state. And with our match, we had a $2.52 million pool of funds that we needed to disperse by spring of next year. And we had 2 projects come forward this year. We had one in Madison. They just put out the press release. The loan was approved, and that is going to create 3 units, single family units in this newer subdivision in the south, I believe, west corner of Madison. And in a great location close to some large employers like Tyson, around community assets like their pool and their school. And so really prime real estate that they just hadn't been able to get a developer to come in and do a lot of work. And so our goal is to complete these 3 units. If they complete and sell successfully, we're already talking to that developer about doing the next 3 in that row. And he has an option with the CRA on that. This was a partnership between us, that developer, and then the local community redevelopment authority who owned the land, who was able to offer that at a reduced price to the developer. The other project is a little larger project that was in York, and we approved that earlier this summer. And it is going to be 3 duplex units and 1 single family unit up by their middle school. These lots were privately owned, but identified as a prime piece of real estate that was available by the local economic developer. So when we were discussing different possibilities, we were able to identify this land with the help of York Development Corporation, and then another partner, Cliff Mesner, we were working with, knew of a developer that might be interested. And so we worked with Arrowhead Development, and he is putting in these units in York. And so we're really excited about that. Both of them are a 12-month construction period and an 18-month loan. And we get repaid once those units are sold. And so these have been some really good models. Our initial funds had to be dispersed in Madison, York, or Schuyler, but once they are repaid, because our match came from private philanthropy, and are not tied to a specific community, we can relend those funds anywhere in the state. So we have a pool of rural workforce housing funds that will continue to recycle, but then also other private philanthropy donations that we've put into a housing fund that will be used statewide. So along with our housing development loans, kind of our bread and butter for a large number of years has been our small business loans. And so they can go up to $250,000 without requiring an exception from our committee. And they can go towards working capital, equipment, inventory, real estate. These loans could be for contractors. You know, if we were to do another project like Minden, that was a much smaller scale rehab. We might run through our small business loans. We could run through our housing development funds. But let's say a local developer needed some working capital. They needed to buy a piece of equipment. We could fund a project with our housing development funds, and then we could also assist in that realm of working capital and equipment through our small business loans. And so we have loan specialists across the state, as well as I process our housing development loans and can work with any other developers on these types of loans. And so just a wide variety of ways that we can assist a developer, even outside of pure construction. So where we're going next. So over the next 2 years, with all of those funds being repaid, we hope to do another 7 to 10 million in housing development loans in the next 2 years. We will have the rural workforce housing funds that will revolve. Once the application opens again, we anticipate applying for some additional funds, partnering with some communities that haven't received funding or have received little funding in the past. We are continuing to have conversation with private donors and foundations and trying to grow this overall fund, because we know that this is every year our housing stock gets older. So this problem of a housing drought and a need for additional units in rehab is never going to end. And so continuing to build up that fund so we can do more projects in more communities. And then we just continue to try to, not just through access to capital, but through programs like the Developers Academy and other opportunities to provide technical assistance and education to communities and individuals. So those partnerships are extremely important, and so we will continue to grow those. So how can we work together? One, if you are interested in the Developers Academy and hosting, let me know. We can definitely have an initial conversation, and also helping promote our Developers Academy if they're in your area. We want to get as many people through that program as possible because they are probably going to make the biggest impact on our rural communities. Also helping us identify and connect to local projects and developers. I always say it's good to know your options. And so we want to be able to share with them what our opportunities are, not just in lending, but if there's technical assistance that's needed in starting up a business, we can assist with that. We also want to be able to deploy those funds as much as we can. They don't do any good sitting in our accounts. And so we want them out in the communities and working. And what we're looking for communities, as all of you probably know, working in this arena is a housing study is necessary for about any type of funding source and or to demonstrate the need of housing. And we know it's there, but it's always beneficial to have that documented through a formal study. I know that some of this other 6 regions are doing some housing assessments. Hopefully those will be detailed enough that they will also be able to provide documentation regarding housing need. We want to know about shovel-ready lots and infrastructure. This would be for not just projects with developers that you're aware of, but maybe you have lots that we can connect our Developer Academy graduates to. And so as those shovel-ready lots and that have infrastructure already. They're the easiest to deploy those funds on. And so knowing of those is extremely helpful. Finding those local champions, other lenders, and we can do a capital stack with local banks. I know a lot of people don't want to bear 100% of the risk. So doing a capital stack is extremely helpful. And so we can partner with those local banks or local economic developers. Those local champions also need to be a part of our leadership, so that we can utilize programs like TIF and LB 840 and other things can help assist in creating more affordable housing. And then also willingness to invest local resources. That could be loan funds, but that can also be time and energy. Making those introductions, hosting the Developers Academy, any way that we can partner with you. If we can come in and provide presentations regarding any of our products, I'm happy to do that just to spread the word and plant that seed, whether they use those now or it is a need in the future, they're aware of them. And so providing those opportunities to connect with people in your community. And then I'll let Brian wrap up.
No, you did it well. Happy to take questions, engage in conversation. But I think you can see our goal is to bring multiple different strategies to bear on the challenge, and to be a flexible resource that can work on many different types of projects and in many different communities. I put our contact information in the chat as well if you want to be able to copy it.
Good stuff, Brian and Andy. Yeah, what questions do you have for our presenters this afternoon? I wrote down a few, but I want to hear from you. So open your microphone if you would, please, or put something in the chat box, and we'll be happy to ask those of our presenters.
I have an invitation as well, which is, for folks that are on the call, professionals in your local communities, what opportunities or gaps do you see that you think a resource provider like the center, who has flexible resources and can work across the state, what gaps do you see that you think that the center could help fill?
And I'm putting that in summary form in the chat box.
And maybe that's oh, hold on. Okay, had to get off one. We were using a backup in case we lost power like we did this morning. That's a really big question. So if you can't come up with it, but you formulate something later, I would encourage you to grab that email for Brian and feel free to probably email him. I would think, Brian, you would like to hear from people if they have ideas after this.
Always.
About where you could be filling gaps.
For sure.
Oh.
Yeah. So Jeff has a comment and question for Andy about sending known developers, both big and small. Do you have a working list currently?
I've been working with a number of people across the state, probably not even a fraction of those that are out there. And I would say if you have anyone, whether they are existing developers or they're just thinking about it, I can walk them through what we see as, key points to take into consideration, talk to them about the Developers Academy. I would say at any stage. Send me contact information, make a virtual introduction. I'm more than happy to discuss any of our programs with them.
I saw another question here. Oh, Andy's putting some information in the chat box that you'll want to check out. Is Spark only for adults? And doesn't mean this is a good thought, but I wonder, could it ever be modified to expose 17, 18, 19-year-olds to to the world of development, construction, that sort of thing. A few years ago, there was conversation around doing like a camp of sorts with some of our teens and students. Would Spark ever be able to be modified in that respect?
I know Angela jumped off. And is there anyone else from Spark on here? Otherwise, I'm happy to answer. I'm gonna go if someone from Spark is still on, then they can jump in. I think it could be. We actually have been talking with Schuyler Community Schools. They have a construction class that builds a house every year. I know a lot of us are familiar with our community colleges doing that, but they're doing it with their high school class. And so we've been talking with the construction company that provides some guidance to the class and their instructor about if there's a way we might be able to participate in that. But I think that is definitely an option. It could be a possibility to audit. We could probably amend some of the class, maybe shorten it a little bit to what would be pertinent at the time. But yeah, I think that could be a great opportunity. I love seeing the CTE programs grow across the state, and I would see that being a natural fit as similar to those programs.
Good.
Yeah, the comment I put in the chat is the developers we've been working with, many of them are still considered small businesses, especially if they're subcontracting out a lot of the work. So if they are equivalent to 5 full-time employees or less, they would be considered a small business for the micro business in regards to the micro enterprise tax credit. And that is a 20% tax credit on any new investment in your business up to $20,000. And so you apply for those funds before you spend any of the money. If they are awarded, then you would be able to implement whatever investment you are doing. And then the following year, you would submit those tax credits on your income taxes. And if you have any liabilities, it would reduce those. But if you don't have any, it's actually cash back on your taxes. It's a cash allocation for our legislature. And we continue to fight to keep this program because it is really appealing for them to take those funds and put them into something else. And so then it allows you to either make loan payments or replenish your coffers or do additional investment in your business. So we want to make sure that everyone is aware of that program. And I always say work with an accountant so that they can assist you with that application with the Department of Revenue.
Could you give us some examples of what an investment might be that would make them eligible for the tax credit?
Yeah, I mean, really easy ones. You're going to buy a piece of equipment, even some working capital. I've seen where some have done a full like marketing rebrand with a new website. Now, what they do is when they say new investment, it's above and beyond your base year, which is always the year before. So if you're a new developer, your base year is 0 because you didn't exist last year. But if you're existing, if you did quite a bit of investment last year, it would have to be the only things that qualify for that credit would be above and beyond the amount you spent last year. So sometimes you need to be a little strategic about when you apply to be able to best leverage those credits. But I think more of the restrictions would be around some agricultural type businesses that some things don't qualify.
Okay. Good. Gonna look here. Okay, Brian put some more information in the chat box about their housing lending. In your readiness factor, do you look at the age of a housing study? What do you like to see as a range of age, or is it more about what's being accomplished? What, Brian or Andy?
I mean, it depends. If we're looking for partners on Rural Workforce Housing Fund for future applications, there's a formal requirement there. When there's not a formal requirement, it's more about demonstrating the need as part of our assessment, as part of our underwriting of the deal. And so there, we have more flexibility. to be prudent in how we assess whether there's need in the community and wouldn't have a formal requirement.
Okay, good. What questions do you all have? Well, hearing none, and maybe some of you are still typing, I have a question for our presenters, kind of as we wrap up and conclude our Q&A. What is one piece of advice that you want to leave our participants with today? Maybe it's a reiteration of a point you made earlier. Maybe it's I want to leave you with this final thought. What would you like to share? And Andy, do you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. I know we hear this throughout our lives, but there is no dumb question. I would reach out with any questions you have. Even if you're not sure if it's a direct fit into this, I'm happy to find the correct referral for you if it's not, or if it's a housing program we haven't delved into before. I've done purchase, rehab, resale in another life. We haven't been an applicant for funding ourselves through the state, but I think that we're open to looking at any type of projects and how we might be able to assist in moving housing development forward for the state of Nebraska. And then don't feel like you have to be a certain length forward in your planning or in your concept. Reach out with general ideas. Do you think this could be a good fit? Where should I go with this? And I'm happy to have that conversation and brainstorm and connect you with other people that could be of assistance. That's one great thing about the Developers Academy and that continued network of cohorts over the years is they continue to meet so that they can have that benefit. Because I know rarely when I'm working with a group is the first idea the best idea, but we probably wouldn't have gotten to the best idea if the first person wasn't willing to speak up that we could build off of. So any idea, whether it is for now or in the future, any time along that timeline, reach out because there might be people out there, whether it's us or someone we connect you to that can help move that forward.
Okay. Brian, what do you want to leave with our participants today?
Housing in small towns really is a team effort. It takes developers, it takes local officials, it takes technical assistance providers, it takes capital sources. And we're seeing that in the projects that we're participating in. To bounce back to one from earlier, the project in Madison, different people, different actors had different pieces of that. And it wasn't until we all started talking to each other that we were able to get the project to come together. And now it's actually moving forward.
How do you bring people together? Just briefly, since you brought that up.
It helps to have an instigator. There was an instigator there in the local community that started trying to, first you talk to one person, then you talk to another person, then you talk to another person, and then you have a three-way conversation. So it does really help. So if you're not sure how to get started, depending on which of those roles you are, you're a local official, or you're a developer, or you're a technical assistance provider, or you're someone who provides capital, try to reach out to one of the counterparties. Those are the ingredients that you need. And if you can get people with each of those hats talking to each other, then you might get a project to gel that wasn't able to gel before.
Okay. Thank you. I see that we've got something in the chat box here. If you had a magic wand to change something in rural areas to help housing moving together faster, what would that be?
I would reduce the cost of construction materials.
I was going to say I don't have a magic wand, but I didn't realize our magic wand could reduce the cost of construction.
It's
I guess it is a magic wand.
Yeah.
I think more realistic is really just people willing to tackle hard topics. And it's that analogy that you eat the elephant one bite at a time. It's going to take time. And you have to have all the right people there. And so I'm just willing to be the instigator. I've seen where there's been an idea of, let's say, a project on one site, and as we try to make that work, it doesn't. But through the conversations and the people involved, we identified another location that did work. Ended up being more advantageous for everyone involved. But had we not tried in the first place, and that first situation, we never would have got to the second one. So it is really, it's be the instigator, ruffle some feathers, have the hard conversations, and then we can all try to help figure out how to make it work.
Okay. Well, Andy, you got a hearty amen to that, that response. Brian, did we hear about your magic wand, or would you be in agreement with Andy, or do you have something different?
Nothing to add.
Brian's magic wand would be that rural workforce housing applications open next week. If there was funds and applications were open.
Oh, okay. So, well, thank you to both of you, Andy and Brian. We greatly appreciate your expertise and your knowledge and your willingness to be here with us today. We've got your contact information on the screen, so all of you feel free to screenshot that or jot it down, and it's also in the chat box. Feel free to grab it there and reach out to Brian and Andy. It's not a single lift. It takes everybody across the state to be working on housing. So, and we appreciate the role that you guys are playing in making housing happen. So just a reminder to all of you, today's webinar will be posted on our HomeNE.us website. It is a searchable format, so you might search for Spark, you might search for Center for Rural Affairs, you might search by names or a key word that you heard. I wrote down several, and so you'll be able to find the webinar that you choose by doing a search feature. And then our next webinar will be on July 16th at 2 o'clock. So be watching for your invitation to join us on that day as well in your email and in the next few weeks. So once again, Brian and Andy, greatly appreciate you and the work that you're doing. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, thanks.
Thank you for
Mark.
having us.
You are most welcome, and thank you. So everybody have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next month.